Hey everyone, my name is Jack. I'm a 23-year-old real estate investor and soon-to-be attorney, and on this channel I cover a variety of topics as they relate to real estate, investing, the markets, and pretty much everything as it has to do with personal finance. So if you'd like that sort of content, be sure to have a look around the channel, and if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe. What if I told you there was a way to have unlimited contributions towards a Roth IRA? That is, you normally have the $6,000 annual contribution limit on a Roth IRA. What if that was thrown out the window and you could put as much money as you wanted towards a Roth IRA? You might think that's too good to be true, but there actually is a way to do this. And there are some catches, which I'll go over in a second, but this is what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. It's something that could be potentially very useful for someone who has a very high income or otherwise would be ineligible for a Roth IRA, or perhaps it makes sense from a tax perspective to take advantage of this loophole. And when I say loophole in the American tax system and retirement and investing system, there's no such thing as an unintentional loophole. These things are there for a reason. Everything was put there by a politician. Someone read over it and someone wrote it. Maybe not everyone read over it, but it is there for a reason. So it's legal, even though it might be a loophole by common definitions. But let's go over normal Roth IRA rules before we get into the mechanics of a backdoor Roth IRA contribution, because that can get kind of messy if you don't understand what a Roth IRA is in the first place. An IRA is an individual retirement account, and with it, you get to take advantage of some pretty serious tax advantages depending on how you use it. There are two types of IRAs. There's a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA, and a Roth IRA is one where you put in post-tax contributions into this retirement account. Then you can invest it in a number of things. Usually that's put into stocks or bonds and things like that. But as that grows over time, you don't pay any taxes on anything within the account. And once you withdraw from the account after age 59 and a half, which is retirement age for IRA purposes, then you do not pay any taxes on anything. So in other words, you paid taxes once when you contributed to the account. That is post-tax income. So you don't get a deduction or anything like that when you contribute. But then by the time you retire, all of those gains are tax-free. So it can be super powerful to take advantage of very low taxes in your early years of your career where you maybe aren't making a ton, and then you get to enjoy the fruits of that low tax bill very later on in your retirement. Compare this to a traditional IRA, which gives you a tax deduction on the contributions that you make in the first year that you put them into the account. So you get to enjoy the tax benefits now, but you don't get to enjoy them later, because once you reach 59 and a half and you're able to withdraw without penalty, you do have to pay full income taxes on anything that you pull out of the account. So if you have low taxes right now and you expect higher taxes in the future, a traditional IRA generally doesn't make much sense because you're going to have a higher tax bill when you eventually remove the money. Now, there are exceptions to this. If you need the money now and you want to use those tax savings to invest in something right away in the short term, maybe there's an opportunity that came up, then it can really make sense because that investment can really compound. But if it's something within the IRA and you're going to invest in it anyways, then you'd rather have that tax benefit generally. Of course, there are other limitations with investing in an IRA, since with a traditional IRA, for example, you can't pull the money out before retirement age without penalty. Same goes for a Roth IRA, except you can pull out your Roth contributions generally without penalty. But if you pull out any gains, you are going to have to pay a penalty. For the vast majority of people, I would think a Roth IRA would make sense. Definitely talk to a licensed financial professional if you are unsure. This isn't financial advice. I am just some guy on YouTube, and you should not trust me. But one of the big limitations of a Roth IRA is an income limit, in that you can't be making too much money now, because then the government says, nope, you don't get to take advantage of this Roth IRA anymore, so you can't use it. And those income limits for 2020 are $139,000 per year if you're single, and $206,000 if you're married filing jointly. Now, these are very high incomes, which most people do not make, but don't tune away yet, because there is another advantage to using a backdoor Roth, which lets you get around a different limitation. And that's the fact that you can only contribute $6,000 per year into a Roth IRA. And that goes for traditional IRAs as well. Between all of your IRAs, so if you have a traditional and a Roth IRA, you can only put in a total of $6,000 per year into all of your IRAs. So it's not cumulative where you can just keep opening IRAs and you can keep contributing up to $6,000. It is $6,000 across all of them combined. So you have the income limit on Roths, which isn't on traditional, but you also have the contribution limit, which is on both Roth and traditional. Now, this is where a backdoor Roth can come in handy. A backdoor Roth is where you take money from a traditional IRA and roll it into a Roth IRA. This allows you to take advantage of the tax-free growth within a Roth IRA without actually being eligible to use one normally. But the thing is, you do have to pay taxes on the money that that you're rolling out of the traditional IRA and into the Roth IRA. So you're basically paying taxes for something that you got a deduction on earlier and then putting that into the Roth IRA because now it's after-tax money. So why would you use a Roth IRA at all? You're still having to pay taxes. Well, the thing is, there is no income limit when you do a backdoor Roth. So if you're in that high income class, like I said before, then you can still take advantage of the Roth IRA's benefits. And you also don't have a contribution limit with a backdoor Roth, since you're taking money that was already in an IRA and then moving into a Roth. So if you have a very hefty traditional IRA, you can just roll all of that into a Roth IRA if that makes sense for you. So maybe over the last few years, you made a lot of money, you maxed out your traditional IRA, got the tax deductions while you had a very high tax bracket, but now maybe you're not at that job anymore, you have reduced your income for some reason because maybe you switched jobs to a less taxing career, literally less taxing, to where now it makes sense to do this backdoor Roth since your tax bracket is lower. And now you can take advantage of that low tax bracket temporarily, pay the taxes on the money from your traditional IRA that you moved over, and then put it into the Roth IRA and then never have to pay taxes on it again. A backdoor Roth IRA makes sense really in 3 instances. First one is if you're planning on maybe investing or making a lot more money in the future even as you get into retirement. You'd be expecting your taxable income to grow and thus your tax bill to grow, so you'd rather pay taxes now as opposed to later when you'd be in a higher bracket. So you're taking advantage of the lower tax bill while you can by using this tool, even though your income might put you out of range of normally using a Roth IRA. The second time where this would probably make the most sense is the situation I explained just a moment ago. And that's where you had a high tax bill before, but maybe this year you have a temporary loss in income and it makes sense to take advantage of your low tax bill, or perhaps you have moved away from a higher paying career and you've moved into one that maybe pays you less, but you have a lower tax bill to take advantage of. So a backdoor Roth allows you to take advantage of this low tax window, if you want to call it that, and then you can move it into a Roth IRA, and ta-da, you now got to take advantage of a low tax bill while you had already benefited from the tax deduction when you initially made the contribution into the traditional IRA before. So you get the deduction before, then your tax bill happens to lower 1 year, then you can roll it into a Roth IRA, again, no contribution limit, and ta-da, you get to take advantage of that low tax bill. And the third situation is just kind of a catch-all, and that's if you expect taxes to go up in the future and you otherwise wouldn't be able to take advantage of a Roth IRA. If that's what you think is going to happen, it probably makes sense to pay the taxes now and move stuff from a traditional IRA into the Roth IRA, pay the taxes now because you expect them to go up in the future. But a backdoor Roth really is a way to get into a practically unlimited Roth. Maybe it's not truly unlimited since you do have to pull it from another IRA and those have contribution limits each year. So it's not like you could just hack the system and keep hosing money into a traditional IRA and then move it into a Roth IRA, because the traditional IRA does have that $6,000 limit. But if you already have money in a traditional IRA and it makes sense to take advantage of a lower tax bill now and you can move it into a Roth because that's what you want to do, then that is a tool that is available to you with a backdoor Roth. Again, definitely speak to a licensed financial professional if this is something you're interested in, since it can be a little complex to do and there are some other rules to be aware of, and you just want to make sure that it's not going to cause dire tax consequences for you because everyone's tax situation is different and the tax code in the US is nauseatingly complex. But hopefully this was informative about what a backdoor Roth IRA is and how it could potentially be beneficial and when it probably makes sense given a particular set of circumstances. But that's all I've got for today. If you like this video, please like it since that would help the channel out a lot. And if you like this sort of content about investing, personal finance, I do a lot of real estate content as well, definitely subscribe since I put out new videos every single week and wouldn't want you guys to miss out. And check out my book, The One Property Retirement, about a simple strategy for building your retirement nest egg using real estate. It's great for beginners who might be unfamiliar with the real estate buying process since it takes you from the very beginning of the deal, from running the numbers and vetting the deal, getting you to the closing table, and beyond that with maintaining and renting out the property. If you end up reading the book, definitely leave a review on Amazon since that would help me out a lot. But until next time, take care.